When deceit poisons the sacred world of combat, when arrogance replaces honor, and when fighters trade respect for cheap theatrics, karma always finds its way back to the ring. What unfolds next isn't just boxing or mixed martial arts. It's retribution written in blood and sweat. You're about to witness the downfall of those who thought they could cheat their way to greatness, only to learn that the ring remembers everything and punishes harder than any referee ever could. The story begins with a heavyweight loudmouth, Jerel Big Baby Miller, a man as inflated with ego as he is with size. Before even throwing a punch, he tried to turn the weigh-in into a circus, spewing insults and acting like a bully. Across from him stood Daniel Dubois, a young lion of British boxing, calm, quiet, and deadly focused. Miller, the self-proclaimed destroyer, called Dubois soft, mocked his past defeats, and promised to make his face mushy. He turned the buildup into a carnival of disrespect, expecting intimidation. But Dubois wasn't there to talk. He was there to end this man's mouth. The bell rang, and from the very first seconds, Dubois came forward like a freight train powered by fury. His jabs were sharp, his body shots vicious. Each punch seemed to carry every insult Miller had ever thrown. But Miller, stubborn and overconfident, soaked it all up, sneering through the pain, feeding his arrogance. For a brief moment, he even rallied back, using his bulk to push Dubois onto the ropes. The crowd roared as it seemed the rat might actually bite. But Dubois wasn't finished. Rising like a phoenix from the flames, he gathered every ounce of his willpower and unleashed pure violence. The punches came in waves, body, head, body again, each one landing with surgical cruelty. Miller's defense crumbled, his breath shortened, and finally the giant toppled. The referee rushed in as Dubois stood tall, proving once again that real warriors don't bark, they break bones. But the plague of arrogance wasn't confined to the heavyweights. A cocky lightweight named Ezra Arenka strutted into the spotlight, mocking young prodigy Ben Whitaker. Arenka laughed at Whitaker's calmness, called him overrated, and promised to knock him out. When the fight began, his arrogance turned into open mockery, hands down, tongue out, dancing around as if the ring was his stage. Yet in the world of combat, disrespecting the art is the quickest way to invite pain. Whitaker responded like a craftsman dissecting a fool. His movements were poetry, his punches surgical. Arenka swung wild, desperate to land something that could redeem his mouth, but he hit only air. Every missed shot earned him a counter so sharp that by the third round, he looked like a man regretting every word he'd spoken. Then, in a cruel twist of irony, the same arrogance that made Arenka showboat became his undoing. As he lunged in recklessly, Whitaker caught him clean, dropping him hard. The referee stepped in, and just like that, the scumbag who mocked the sport was silenced by it. But no one embodied the filth of dirty fighting quite like the self-proclaimed Persian lion, Muhammad Habadi. Cocky, wild, and reckless, Habadi's fights were spectacles of chaos, grabbing, headbutting, throwing illegal shots whenever he felt cornered. He wasn't just a dirty fighter. He was a disgrace to the sport. So when former UFC fighter Diego Brandão stepped into the cage with him, the universe had found its instrument of karma. Habadi opened the fight with his usual antics, cheap shots, unnecessary aggression, and a total lack of respect. But Brandão wasn't there to play referee. He was there to deliver justice. Within moments, the cage turned into a punishment chamber. Brandão's strikes landed like thunderclaps, each one sending the arrogant Persian stumbling backward. When the end came, it was brutal. Brandão's fists left no room for doubt. Habadi was broken, humbled, and exposed. His nickname, Lion, reduced to a whisper of mockery. Karma's next visit came in August 2022, when Ruben Torres, an undefeated rising star, faced Christian Baez. For most of the bout, Baez dominated, proving too skilled and too disciplined for Torres. But just when defeat seemed certain, Torres threw an illegal shot that left Baez unconscious. It was a disgraceful act, one that sparked outrage across the boxing world. Victory earned through deceit is no victory at all, and Karma, patient as ever, waited for the perfect time to strike back. When Torres stepped into the ring with Eduardo Estella months later, the Reaper was ready. Torres started strong, controlling the ring, jabbing with authority. But Estella was built from a different kind of steel. As the rounds went on, he adjusted, biting through the pain, waiting for his moment. Then, when Torres grew too confident, Estella unleashed a storm. His right hand cracked like thunder across Torres's chin, shaking the ring to its core. The once undefeated rat stumbled, gasped, and finally fell. Justice was restored, not through words, but through the raw poetry of punishment. And then there was Chris Avalos, a man whose arrogance burned bright enough to light his own downfall. Before facing Carl Frampton in 2015, Avalos made it his mission to disrespect the humble Irish champion. He mocked him, laughed at him, called him overrated. He thought he could rattle the quiet fighter from Belfast. But Frampton wasn't a man of talk. He was a man of fire disguised as calm. When the fight began, Avalos rushed forward, trying to bully his opponent. He swung wildly, but Frampton's counters were precise and cold. Every time Avalos opened his mouth to taunt, Frampton's fists answered. By the fifth round, the punishment was unbearable. The crowd roared as Frampton unleashed a hurricane of punches that left Avalos stumbling, bloodied, and gasping for air. The referee had no choice but to end it. Frampton stood tall, victorious, as the cocky challenger was carried away, his pride in ruins. Each of these stories shares the same moral, a simple truth that echoes through every gym. Every ring, every cage, disrespect has consequences. No matter how loud a fighter talks or how dirty his tactics, the moment the bell rings, the truth comes out. The ring doesn't lie. It strips away excuses, exposes weakness, and rewards those who fight with heart, not hatred. Jerel Miller, Ezra Arenka, Muhammad Habati, Ruben Torres, Chris Avalos. They all learned the same lesson the hard way. The sport they mocked became their executioner. Every insult they hurled, every cheap move they made, came back to crush them in poetic fashion. Because in combat sports, the only thing more powerful than skill is karma, and when it lands, it hits harder than any punch. So tell me, who do you think got the most satisfying taste of karma? Which of these fighters' downfalls shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching justice served one punch at a time, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Because this is boxing, where the loudest mouths fall hardest and karma never misses its target.